On a cold February morning, a family in Texas set out on a familiar but urgent trip. They had done this journey before, several times in fact, but this time something went terribly wrong. As they rushed from their home in Rio Grande to Houston for an emergency medical checkup for their 10-year-old daughter, they were stopped at an immigration checkpoint. What happened next would change their lives forever. The little girl, a US citizen, had been battling brain cancer for past years. She had undergone a difficult surgery to remove a tumor, and while doctors initially feared the worst, she had managed to survive. But you know what? Her fight was far from over. She still needed constant medical checkups, rehabilitation therapies, and medication to prevent dangerous circumstances to happen. Her condition made it harder for her to even speak, an affected moment on the right side of her body. Her parents, undocumented immigrants from Mexico, had always been very careful. On previous trip through the checkpoint, they had shown letters from the doctors and lawyers explaining their daughter's medical situation. Each time they were allowed to pass without any trouble. But on February 4th, everything changed. The officers at the checkpoint refused to accept their documents and instead arrested the parents for lacking legal immigration status. Their plea to let them continue to their daughter's doctor was ignored. In fact, they were not even interested hearing them. In the meantime, the US immigration authorities did not just deport the parents. They sent their American-born children with them, including a 10-year-old girl. In total, 5 children, aged 15, 13, 10, 8, and 6 were forced out of the country, while their 17-year-old son remained behind in Texas. The family was sent to a detention center before being deported off to a Mexican side of Texas bridge in the middle of the night. The mother and her daughters were separated from her husband and sons, and the young girl, already very weak from her illness, was forced to sleep on a cold floor under harsh conditions. Once in Mexico, the family struggled to find a safe place to stay. They spent a week in a shelter, afraid of what would happen next. The mother described her fear as something unimaginable, something that she wouldn't wish on anybody out there. In the chaos of deportation, the family lost access to the medical care that was keeping their daughter alive. She had not seen her specialist doctor since being forced into Mexico, and her condition remains fragile. But let me tell you, she is not the only one at risk. Her 15-year-old brother has a dangerous heart condition known as long QT syndrome, which causes irregular heartbeat that could be fatal without proper treatment. He wears a monitor that tracks his heart rate, but without access to American doctors, his health is also in serious danger. In the meantime, the children cannot attend schools, and the parents live in constant fear of their safety. Also, the area where they were sent is known for kidnappings, specifically targeting families with American ties. Also, for security reasons, their names have been kept private. You know, this tragic story of this entire family is not an isolated case. Under the Trump administration's strict immigration policy, many families like theirs have faced sudden deportations even when the US citizen child are involved. Immigration authorities argue that undocumented parents can choose to leave their children behind in the US. But in reality, it's not that simple, right? If parents are arrested without preparing legal custody documents, their kids often end up in a foster care system, making it difficult or even impossible to reunite with them later. Many parents faced with this impossible choice take their children with them, even if it means losing access to education, healthcare, and safety. Now, the Texas Civil Rights Project, a legal advocacy group, is fighting for the family's return to the US attorney, and they argue that the government's actions were cruel and unnecessary, stating that the parents had no criminal history and they were only trying to save their daughter's life. In the meantime, the group's president believes that this case is part of a larger pattern of harsh immigration enforcement that disregards the well being of children. She said, "What is happening to this family is an absolute tragedy." The organization is calling on the US government to grant the family humanitarian parole, a temporary permission to re enter the country due to urgent medical needs. Let's look at a bigger picture now. This heartbreaking case raises important questions about America's immigration policy and how they impact mixed status family. The questions are: should US citizen children be forced to leave their country because of their parents' status? Should humanitarian cases like this one be handled differently? What protection exists for families who face life or death medical condition? In the end, for now, the family remains in Mexico, desperately hoping for a way back to the US. The mother, speaking through tears, pleaded with authorities to understand the life or death situation her children are facing. "The authorities have my children's life in their hand." Their story is a painful reminder that immigration policies don't just affect adults, they deeply impact innocent children, even those who are legally US citizens. Whether or not they are allowed to return will set a precedent for thousands of other families in similar conditions. For those watching from the outside, the question remains: how can a country that promises to protect its citizen allow a sick child just to stay away from a life-saving care? Until action is taken, this family and many others like them also are left trapped in an uncertain future, far away from the country that they call home.